And we back because we black. We back. What's good, ladies and gentlemen? It is your man CJK checking in once again. Back with another show. Welcome to another episode of the CJ Kyle's Experience. I'm gonna be bringing my guest on, Miss Roxy. What's going on, Miss Roxy?
How are you?
Feeling better, recovering. I felt a lot better. How's your day been so far?
It's been good. It's a little snowy out, so I was outside just
That
playing around just a while ago, so I'm a little messy here.
got you.
Yes. How have you
It's
been?
been
You said you're recovering,
I'm
right?
better. I had a cold. I had like a cold. I've been tested several times. It's not COVID, y'all.
Good.
So don't
Amen.
trip. Um,
Good.
I've had COVID before, but
Okay.
it's not COVID this time. But I've been sipping on tea. Um, just been taking good care of myself, and I'm straight. I'm straight. I'm definitely straight. But what's going on with you?
Nothing much. Just interested to discuss this topic. I have, uh, well, you shared the topic you shared with me. I don't know if we're gonna cover
Yeah.
that
Okay. So yeah, we can get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about Miss Maya Angelou. Now she
topic.
has just she's been put on the US quarter.
Hmm.
And people are happy, people are celebrating and everything like that. But it led me to a question. It led me to a question because it seems like, and I try not to make this show a political show, but it seems like the Democrats are having a little trouble right now.
Hmm.
It seems like the Democrats are people are losing faith in them, especially like people of color. So every now and then you get the Democrats and the liberals, they throw out little trinkets, I think. And this is the latest one. The one before that, I think when the election was going on, they all bowed, they all did the Wakanda salute at the Capitol building.
Yes, they did.
Nancy Pelosi and all them had on the African dashikis and
Yes.
they all on one knee. It was very foolish.
Yes.
And
Kind of wondered how did they get back up? So those geriatric knees.
and a lot of us just fell for it hook, line, and sinker, and it was actually quite sickening. So, and like I said, I don't talk about stuff like this, but whatever, it is what it is. And this is the latest I don't know if I want to call it antics. I'll call it antic. The latest antic. Maya Angelou has been placed. She is the first black woman on a quarter. I just when I first heard it, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, "Oh, all right, she's on a quarter." But then I started seeing people talk about it, and I've heard like a lot of people on the left saying that this is such a this is such a win for progress and movements and all that jazz. And I just I don't feel that way. What do you think? What was your initial thoughts when you first heard about her
So
being on a
just to
quarter?
begin, I have a little, for me, it kind of tickles me a bit just because of the fact that I'm seeing ever since COVID, there's been such a push for us, customers to have exact change or to use your debit card, you
Right.
know. So the circulation of actual change, is not really even as common as it was prior to the pandemic. So that's interesting that she would even be put on a quarter, considering that, money itself. I mean, even cash dollars are not really being used as often as like for instance your ATM card,
Right.
much less a quarter. So that's a little it's a little tickle there. But I think for me, oftentimes I see the pattern of kind of like black people being like on the bone.
Hmm.
And and with that being said, it really doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to uproot any laws that are discriminatory and that target black
It
folks,
really doesn't.
it
Right.
doesn't cost you anything.
Exactly.
So putting
Nothing.
putting her on a quarter is like, okay, it's just like taking the colored the whites only signs down. You know what I
Right.
mean? It doesn't really require um any radical change. So people can keep their same views. Discriminatory practices can continue as they were before. Now we just had this symbol of some progress, and then we can tell our children, see, look, things are getting better.
Isn't George Washington on the front of the quarter?
I did not even investigate that story. When I say I seen it, I seen the story to answer your question. But when I saw it, it was just to me more symbolism. Black people need something tangible. And when I say black people, specifically descendants of American slavery, they need something tangible.
Hmm.
And a
That's
quarter,
interesting that you say that though, because you're from you have Jamaican descent, right?
yes,
Okay, because I've been noticing like a divide between the American blacks. Well, I wouldn't call it a divide, but when we start
there
getting
is,
into this, huh?
there is.
You think so? Well, when
I
we
think
get into
so.
this talk about reparations and things that are
Mm-hmm.
tangible and the
Mm-hmm.
things that the American blacks get, it seems to get lost in translation with who's what up, King Gene? What's
How
going on?
y'all doing,
Hey,
family?
what's up?
What up?
Miss
What up?
Roxy, how you?
How are you?
I am well.
I'm
It,
glad to
it's
see you.
it seems to get lost in translation on this whole well, who's gonna get what, who's
Yeah.
FBA, who's ADOS, who's from other cultures, from other continents of the world, and
Mm-hmm.
it just gets lost in a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo. But let me ask King Gene. Now, King Gene, are you aware that Miss Maya Angelou is on the cover? Well, not the cover, but she's on the quarter now.
Right. Yeah, I woke up this morning and I saw that in Google News.
Yeah. How did you feel about that when you first read it? Did you feel anything towards it, or what did you think about that?
Well, no, because I mean, just speaking frankly, American history is full of acts of that nature. You know, they do things, but I think that's it's one of the tools that they use just to appease. So you know, I got some here in this hand to distract me from what I don't have in this hand. So yeah.
Fact. That's a fact. I agree.
I agree.
Hmm.
Um, King Jing, me and Nurse Roxy was just talking about tangibles for American black people, and I was telling her I noticed that every time the Democrats, the left, seem to get in some sort of trouble because I don't Biden's approval rating is at an all time low. Uh, Black people have grown mistrust towards Biden, and they're scrambling now. You know, we have the midterms; they'll be coming up soon, and I think a lot of people of color, particularly black people, American black people, are starting to lose trust in the left. Now, I don't know if you remember, but back when Biden was running, while he was running, all them people on the left, they got on their knees and did the Wakanda salute.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy Pelosi and all of them had on the dashikis and everything like that. Like that meant anything. What did you think about that?
I thought it was a circus, man. That's what I thought it was.
Hmm.
Look, you know what? Okay, all right. One thing and I guess everyone in America knows now, is that as black people, we are spiritual people by nature. I mean, it just and anytime you involve spirituality in anything, you have to believe in symbols. Sometimes there are things that are
Mm.
presented symbolically, and because they know that, then that's what they tend to do. They tend to present all these symbols because they know that we're susceptible to them, and they really don't mean anything. Not
Yeah.
in the long run, they don't.
And for those who may not know what we're talking about, this is the picture and
Mm.
the image I'm referring to. When they
Yeah.
was all on their knees and they all had on dashikis and it was actually kind of sick if you ask me.
We're having that kente print around their neck as if it represents what? What does that mean?
Right, right to them at all. Like what does that really mean? So I just thought that was I thought that was kind of it was almost like a backhanded compliment if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'm trying to see how I want to phrase this question to y'all. I'm gonna stem it. I'm gonna take it somewhere else, but I want to keep it on Maya Angelou. Um, do you think she should be on a quarter king gene? Do you give a damn? To be honest,
Well, to be honest with you, now listen, I am thoroughly acquainted with her writings, her literature, and for the most part, uh, I'm an individual who really takes value in the things that she wrote. Uh, but I think what they're doing, I think they're using her and her legacy to benefit themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's. But let me be more direct. No, let me just be direct. Let me answer the question. No, because her image, her legacy is being used in a way that I don't agree with. So I'm gonna say no.
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean? How can you explain that for me real quick?
Well, that it would seem now you. Of course, now you talking to a person. Let me make this clear. I'm not a fan of the left or the right because
Me either.
you talking about two wings of the same bird, so they
Mm-hmm.
Right.
can't be too much different. Okay,
Right.
but what I will say is that throughout history, you've seen that they've taken a number of individuals that we hold in high esteem, and they use their legacies to kind of keep us in line. So I think that's what's going on now.
I think they take the individuals who were safe
Mm.
and they put them on that pedestal. They take the individuals like Maya Angelou and the Martin Luther King who really they promoted that integration narrative and all of us being one and everything like that. Those are the people that they take and promote. They don't do that to the Marcus Garveys and they don't do that to the people like that who really represented tangible change. But Nurse Roxy, I'm gonna get to you. Where do you think this is gonna go? Do you think this is gonna lead to more symbolism?
I mean, I hate to say this, but look at how most of us Black folks, and this I noticed was a pattern I seen globally, the response to like the Black Panther film, for example, right? You had people running around Wakanda forever. I mean, and they just said, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I have debated about this, and just as I predicted, to the letter. Um, where do you see the Black film representation that came from that film? So to answer your question, because what the argument I was always getting is this representation matters. It's going to open the door for more films. It's going to open the door for more Black writers. It's going to open the door for this. It's going, but then the film to me was so racist. I told people that it was worse than I think that is D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation. I
You
think
th-
he's the
you
one.
thought you thought Black Panther was racist?
I thought it was extremely, because if you think about it, first of all, the person that they made the villain was someone who was about Black empowerment. They
Oh,
essentially
Killmonger,
made him the
right?
villain, and then
And the
even
hero was the white guy in the movie.
the hero was a white guy, right?
Yeah.
They wind up having to release their information to him, and that was supposed to be done in a very harmless kind of let your guard down, open your doors, let him in, give him some of our secrets to help us. Um, then you had to see them battle each other, and then at the end of the day, at the very end, you had some I guess I would say African American, because at the end there was like this whole thing about the community center, and you had these children who initially upon seeing the spaceship or whatever they had arrived to the inner city in, it was highlighted that, oh, don't touch that, are you trying to steal that? That was you just go back to that line. That's what the reaction was. I think it was Lupita Nyong'o's character who said that. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to steal that? And the kid was like, yeah, cool ride or something like that. And she's there explaining to them what it is. So I'm like, okay, so again, we're continuing this narrative that blacks who are out of, or people who self-identify as black who are from other countries, they're more eloquent, they're more knowledgeable, they have they're more savvy, and so they have to educate us. And so that's what I didn't like about that. I
Mm.
didn't appreciate that at all. But again, will the symbolism continue? I believe it will, because we respond to it. And just like what King Gene said, if we're responding to something, they're going to keep on giving it to us. And before you came on, King Gene, I was telling CJ that my interpretation is, if it doesn't really cost anything to give you something symbolic, why not give it to you? You know what I mean? I don't have, it doesn't cost us any money. You know, reparations is expensive. But if we can give you these quarters, we can put put this person on the $20 bill, we can take down the whites only signs, it doesn't change anything. But now if you start telling employers, we're going to close this place down, because look how long did affirmative action last before white people said it was reverse racism?
Years.
You know what I mean? But you understand, like, that's right now. Affirmative action is nothing right now. It's nothing even to
Right.
even Black people can't even use that to ensure that they have the same opportunities. The argument goes into all kinds of other
Well,
topics.
black people don't even benefit the most from affirmative action.
Well, we weren't initially who the affirmative action was written out for anyway. It was
Right, right,
initially written out for Europeans that were coming into Ellis Island and those other places, trying to figure out how they were going to make it in the country.
right.
But when it's time for it to actually work for us, again, you're going to hear people saying, that's reverse racism. So again, I think we have to be more disciplined. And when we say we want something, we have to be committed to that change happening. And that may happen with us not showing off sometimes. Black people struggle with showing off, so sometimes with that, we can get distracted and not be as disciplined with ourselves and with our children. So that
Right.
we're like, that's a commitment that has to be generational. And that's the reason why I feel so inspired. You mentioned Marcus Garvey, him, Malcolm X's parents. I feel very empowered by those individuals, and Martin Luther King, because to be honest with you, they like to give us the Martin Luther King that fits their
The
image and
soft
their
version.
symbolism.
The
Right.
soft version. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
they
sure.
don't want to tell us about the Martin Luther King who was saying, like, issues
Run us
around,
the
like,
check. Yeah.
land, land
Mhm.
ownership, and fighting for the farmers' rights and things like that. They want to show us the integrationalist, because juxtaposed to Malcolm X, for example, um, then you had this person who was just like, well, this is the more acceptable uh, Black person that we can, hoist up and negotiate with, because Malcolm X definitely was not up for negotiations.
Let me ask you something. I want to ask you both this. Was integration the one of the worst things to happen to black people?
Of course.
What do you think, King G?
I think so. I think because and look, I did a video on this a little while ago. It was a conversation between Jim Brown and Governor Maddox from Georgia.
Mhm.
And even though Governor Maddox said some things that took a lot for me to keep my composure, but this is one of the things that he said. He said he was against forced segregation and he was against forced integration. And that's one of the things that stood out to me, because I'm like, I agree with it, because anything that's forced, there are going to be some individuals who are not for it. Then they're just,
Mhm.
it's not something that we have agreed to do. It's something that individuals who are making the laws have see fit to do it, because I guarantee you there is some financial incentive involved for the
Right.
Mhm.
reason why we're doing this, right?
Mhm.
And then as a community, I think too, uh, and this is probably going to be a little hot, but I'm gonna say it anyway. As a community, I think that it's a little disarming, because
Mm.
you're trying to uh, integrate with individuals who at the time, and now, please believe me, now I'm from Mississippi, so you can't
Mhm.
look.
Mhm.
You say whatever you want. I know what racism is. We
Mhm.
still see it here. So you're integrating with people who really, at the core of their being, there are some individuals who really do not think well of us. And so that's why I said it was a little disarming, because you paint the picture that, you know, us getting along together and coming together is something that we can do when there are cases where it's evident that people just do not want to be around. So why force
Yeah.
it?
Right.
I think it's yeah. I really think that was one of the worst things. And I've had this argument several times with a lot of people, and I just think it was the worst thing that could have happened. Well, then people be like, "Well, they bombed us with the okay. Well, then you just got to rebuild." I mean, it's nothing much that you either you rebuild or get out or what else. But you can't. I mean, I just think when you force that, people they respect you less. And I do think integration was the worst thing that happens because once you beg to be in a certain position, then people will give you less than what you're actually worth. What do you think, Nurse Roxy?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about integration is it wasn't one of those type of things where it was like, what do you have to offer, black man, black woman? When you say integration and you have I think if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was in South Carolina where you had like and I think Louisiana as well, where you had black politicians who essentially were able to go into government roles. They were able to have a voice for black people. That's integration to me, right? When you are able to have a political voice. But if you're telling me that um, we still see the dynamic, look at the Supreme Court, the highest court. I mean, look at the complexion of the people. Look at the way that looks. So
Mhm.
to me, I feel like when you're talking about integration, is like what is being integrated? Is it a financial thing where we're going to build up black businesses so they can be able to be in the marketplace and really be a competitor with individuals who systemically have been given an advantage, right?
Right.
So that to me is integration. When you say, I want to, whatever it is that you bring to the table, we want to support you so that you can be able to integrate. We can mix this. Essentially, what integration wound up being was social integration. And it's no surprise that you've seen so many uh, non non-black people who do not identify as black being so concerned about race mixing sexually, because it again, when you don't provide something tangible, you wind up focusing on, or when the government is not providing something tangible, you're focusing on things that again doesn't really cost you much. Who cares about who's sleeping with who? It
Right.
doesn't cost you anything who's sleeping with who. There's no. But now, if you're demanding reparations behind that, then now we're talking about something financial. This country was built on uh, the capitalist system, and that the idea of that. So when you're talking about integration without something tangible, you're talking about people being therefore preoccupied with sexual access. So then you have a lot. I honestly think what really destroyed the civil rights movement was the sexual revolution. Just
Mm,
that whole thing, all of that. These women who they became completely preoccupied with their sexuality, and it got a lot of black women out of the fight as well, because a lot of them joined that. If you squeeze somebody like what's her name, Angela Davis,
mm.
she's going to be talking that feminist talk,
Yeah.
and I
Big
think
feminist.
again, it doesn't cost you anything to talk about sexuality and abortion rights and all that kind of stuff. Is a great distraction, because
Wow.
even when you talk about something like abortion, if we really look at it, that was an issue that was targeting
The
people
white
who look like
community.
me and you, right? No, the people that look like me and you. That's initially where Margaret Sanger is coming from with
Oh,
that.
oh, yeah, in that
Right.
aspect, yeah, because she was a
Yeah.
eugenist. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But we take that conversation and we run it into be what? This is my body, my rights, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Hmm.
Again, we get distracted.
Right.
That's black people's Achilles heel, getting distracted.
Yeah. I definitely agree. King Gene, do you think the civil rights movement was a failure?
I can't say completely no. I can't say completely because now, like I told y'all, after just the first chapter in the Monahan report, man, it there are some things that were put in place that really, and then too, man, President Johnson uh and Kennedy, it looked like their agenda, regardless of what their motive was, but their agenda was to try to at least put something in place to help. Manpower Training Act, then the Brown versus Board of Education, then the Civil Rights Act, all those things put down administratively. And
Mm-hmm.
then you had certain things that were done during President Johnson's term, where they were trying to fight poverty. They were trying to fight unemployment,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that was as a result of the things that had been done in the civil rights movement,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So now I can't say completely no, but now as far as that's a hard question to answer, man, because in doing research, now I don't want to, go down the rabbit hole, but
Mm-hmm.
it would appear that we have a problem reconciling liberty and equality.
Mm.
So a lot of times we get the two, mixed up. Because now when Lincoln freed the slaves, he gave them liberty. Okay, here you
Mm.
go, right? But now when you're looking at equality, it's interesting because in American history, there's always been two kinds of equality. And I know y'all done heard this from somebody else, but this is in the paper. It's
Mm-hmm.
equality of opportunity
Mm-hmm.
and equality of outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So now the majority of American society believes in equality of opportunity. Everybody can line up at the start line. Y'all can, based upon your abilities, you can run the race.
Mm-hmm.
But it would seem like for us, toward the end of the civil rights movement, it became more about equality of outcome. So not only can I line up at the starting line and run this race, but you got to guarantee me at the end that I'm gonna have the same results as this other runner.
Right.
And
Mm.
the, and the, and the other runner in this particular instance is white America. So at the beginning we were kind of moving in the right direction, and then toward the end it kind of started to break down a little bit. So uh, I can't say for certain no, because there was some good things that were accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about voting. um, I'm not gonna say what I think yet, but Nurse Roxy, I'm gonna ask you:
Mm-hmm.
Is voting has voting gotten us anywhere over the last 50 years?
So here's the problem with voting. I think oftentimes what happens with us folks, we tend to not understand what political power really looks like. And I'll give you a brief example. I remember working as a nurse for an organization that was in like a kind of small outskirt town in Philadelphia. But these smaller towns, these little pockets of towns in Philadelphia, and you can, if you're living in Philadelphia, you realize that those small little pockets exist because these are white people who are fleeing the city. So they have access to everything that's in the city, but they're in their little pocket, right? And the interesting thing is the service that I was providing was a service within their network of their churches and their community centers. But the center that I worked out of primarily was predominantly elderly Black folks. And these elderly Black folks had a lot of, uh, issues with housing. They we were trying to help, work with them with managing their medical care, but they were in these low income like housing situations, right? So this is assisted living apartment situation, so it didn't look rough or anything, but
Right.
that's essentially how they were there on vouchers. They didn't own their homes, so they were in this assisted living. Some of these people literally up to 70 and 80 years old were saying that they rented their home their whole lives, that they were in rented homes. So they didn't own their homes. That's how they ended up in this place. Okay, long story short, when we had events, for example, our can drive for Thanksgiving, although these older white folks that live in these little pockets were the same age, and I was providing the same service. I'm going to their centers, I'm going to their churches, doing blood pressure screenings, talking to them about their health, working with older folks. The Black people who were in this one particular housing, this assisted living, they were the recipients of these cans. So we do a can drive or a food drive. They were the recipients. These white folks, when we gathered with them in their little centers, and I was doing a blood pressure screening with them, They were the ones that were donating the cans. In
Mm.
fact, although it was a program that both of them should have been participating in equally, the black ones were expecting the food from the food drive, and the white ones were the ones that had, were the ones providing it. It was a weird thing. But while I was there, I was in a meeting and I got to observe something. So there is a network of older black white folks called the Village. I don't know. You could go look that up. They come out of, I think they come out of UC Berkeley and over here in California. And essentially, what their thing is about is that they want to be liberated and free. They don't want to be in nursing homes. They want to age in place in their homes, and they turned that into a whole political movement. So while I was in one of their meetings, they're having this big grand old thing where we're able to be in different satellite locations and look at this one speaker who was at a university speaking, and he was just talking about their philosophy. We love the villagers. We love what you guys stand for. You're older guys who, older women and older men who, you don't want to be in nursing homes. They even use the term nursing home abolitionists.
Keep
This
going, Nurse Roxy. I just gotta grab my phone. I'll be right there.
Sure, sure.
Keep going.
They were literally using the language nursing home abolitionists to describe their movement. Okay. And the interesting thing is they had a system where this is a national organization. They pay into it monthly. You can pay into it annually. You can have multiple family members paying into it. You don't have to be elderly to pay into it. I could start paying into it if I wanted to. Do you know that when one of the politicians came into town, so a part of this event that I was, able to be a part of, like, in one of their meetings, they were bragging about a news story that was recently, covering one of their, meetings and something that they did that was big. And what was it? There was a man who was running for an office. They were able to put him up in a hotel when he came to visit. They came to visit their location and put him up in a hotel. They had a whole banquet. He was the speaker for the speaker. He was one of the speakers at the banquet, and essentially the news story covered it as, look at these older folks who are, they're not giving up, and I'll tell you something to push my point a little further. So they were talking about their push towards diversity. There was so little diversity that they described it as, and this is their bullet in their advertisement, right? That it was 15 at the time. I think they said about 15% diversity, and they actually had a bullet describing the diversity. We talked about people with chronic conditions. Disability was on that list for diversity. Okay. And the reason why I'm pointing that out to you is that it was screaming, we are a white older organization. We want you to understand what we mean when we say the word diversity. And when we say that we're aiming to be inclusive, we're talking about this: chronic conditions, disability. And I'm looking at this like, and so just taking all of this in, and mind you, I was like a black pepper in a room of salt, right? Because I was the only black person in this room. And this room had at least 100 people in that room. Okay. We're in one of their chapter locations, which is a local library where they're doing. And again, I'm saying to you, the program that I was working in, I was a nurse doing blood pressure screenings for older adults. So you have to understand, all of these people are patients getting the service from me. Right.
Right.
And so the I went all around there just to describe to you, that is how you have a political voice, because they had money to put that politician up in a hotel. When that
Right.
politician came to speak, they told him, you can speak on one of our platforms. We got money. Oh, we can take it back. Oh, you want a banquet hall so you can speak to all of us? Right? The doctor that was up there speaking, interesting enough, was a doctor I was familiar with, because when I was in graduate school, he had wrote this piece about like the healthcare conundrum, and it was around like, preventative care, and why people go into the hospital unnecessarily and die when they could have been using preventative services. And he has this whole thing that he talks about, this healthcare conundrum, and that was the speaker that they had. So we're talking about a New York, what's that? The New York Times bestseller, but a New York Times bestselling author, right?
Right.
Speaking a politician that you can put up and hold. That is what a political voice looks like. The problem with black folks is we want to vote, but we don't have money to tell somebody, oh no, you're gonna do exactly what we said. Because guess what? When that man was paid up, was laid up in that hotel, when he was fed and he was given that platform to speak to all of those individuals, guess what? He made a covenant with those people that day. You
Yes,
understand?
indeed. Right.
They made
Right.
an agreement that day. They had an understanding that day. We want to vote with no money. But guess what? You know what we'll have money for? We'll have money for everything else, but we won't have money for a politician to rent that politician. That's what Dr. Claude Anderson tells us to do. He said, you don't vote for people, you rent them. You go ahead and you put that money and you tell them, this is exactly what I want. And this is what we need. So that's when they're talking about this nursing home abolitionist stuff, to me is laughable. But guess what? They're gonna get some stuff done. They had media covering them. That was one of their big achievements for that year. That news story. And they showed the news story as a part of this event. And again, this was their holiday Thanksgiving drive event, but they were so proud that they put that clip up there. Hey, we want to show everybody, how we made it to the news. Look at what we have. So the media is able to cover these individuals as a group. Look them up. They're called the Villagers. And this is a nationwide, organization. And I would not be surprised if it was international. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I read international, but it's definitely a nationwide organization. Black folks, ask me if we would ever collectively put our money together anywhere
No.
and tell a politician what we want from you. No, we begging and crying. We out there marching in the streets, getting tied up with people who financially put their monies together, but used us as the face. Talking about symbolism, right?
Right.
To get their protest agendas together. Because with all of that rioting and all that tearing up stuff in the street and all that burning everything down, because in Philadelphia, it was looking like a war zone. I asked the question to everybody. I said, so what was going on in the city with the discrimination, with the way some black men are dealing with being stopped and frisked and all of that, and all these illegal bad actors in the police force. You're telling me all of a sudden we need one or two people, not even from Philadelphia, to be to die, and then that's when we start blowing up the ATM machines. That's when we start running into the pharmacies and clearing out the pharmacies. Yeah, we were caught on the news, caught red-handed, participating in all that looting and all that carrying on. But you're really telling me that we, right now, as we stand, we didn't want to loot, we didn't want to tear the place. You know what happened? Again, someone infiltrated, someone got in the front of it. They said we're gonna take advantage of all the anarchy that we could possibly, have going on in the name of black folks. Again, symbolism. Black people need to be, they need to understand. We need to understand how to be political, and we need to mature politically and stop being so excited about just superficial things.
I
Come on,
100%
Harris,
agree with that.
AKA, and all of this. Come on, man. Come
I
on.
agree with that. And I think we need to start leaning towards more tangible things. I'm sorry for what I missed, but
No, you're
I
good.
just feel like we need to be leaning towards more tangible things. I feel like this her being on a corner, Harriet Tubman on a quarter, or Harriet Tubman being on a $20 bill, it does absolutely nothing for the state of
Nothing.
black people in
Hmm.
this country. And I
No,
mean absolutely nothing.
nothing at all.
And I don't know what y'all said about voting, but when you look up the definition of insanity, it's doing something over and over again, expecting a
Taking
different
a
result.
different result.
We've been voting for the last what 50, 60 years, right? In all honesty, where has that gotten black people in this country? As far as the presidential aspect, right? Where has that gotten us? Because I see black kids getting killed with immunity and impunity, and I see all kind of stuff happening, and I don't think much has changed. Um, I mean, we even had a quote unquote black president that said, well, he's not the president of black people. He's the
Right,
president of
right,
all the people in America. And you had other leaders from other countries laughing at him,
right.
literally laughing at him. So that was my question that was the reason I asked when I said, is has voting really gotten us anywhere? I don't know if y'all answered that or not, or if I even asked it, but
Well, what I was saying to King Gene, is, well, you have to have money to get politicians to do what you want them to do.
Right.
We'll get into the symbolism, because nothing for nothing. We are coming with our hands, empty, begging for something, and then they give you something symbolic in return. Because that's, if King Gene, if I went to your house right now and I said, King Gene, you know, I'm coming over just to come hang out with you. There's no expectation there.
Right.
There's nothing I should be expecting to get from that. I'm hanging out with you. There's nothing that you're gaining from me hanging out with you,
Right.
right? But that's the
Right.
kind of stuff that we come there with our empty hands. You're going to a poll booth with empty hands, voting for somebody, and all you can do at the end of the day is beg. So now, if I say to you, King Gene, I want something from you, the only thing I can do is beg, and you can find it in the kindness of your heart if you want to give me something. But because I came with nothing, it would be a begging thing. That's the only thing I could do, or guilt trip you.
Right.
That's true. That's
Right?
true.
What about you, King Gene? What do you think about that?
No, I absolutely agree. And then a point that Nurse Roxy was sharing that really stood out to me is in amongst the villagers when she talked about how they talked about diversity. Diversity referred to different physical ailments that you had. It didn't refer to different ethnic groups. No, it didn't
No.
refer to that. And so it's interesting that they can organize based upon a common interest, but as our people, and it go back to something she said, and I'm sticking to this also. There will be a line out and around the corner for the new releases of the Jordans. Now we can get together on that. We can get together on that. But when it comes time to do something that's going to help the community as a whole, we just cannot keep it together.
Nope.
We can't. And until we get to that point, there's not going to be any change.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Sometimes are we a lost cause?
No.
Is this generation a lost cause? Because sometimes I think with some of the stuff, and I know that when you don't control your own media, when you don't control your own press, people can flip the narrative whatever way they want to flip the narrative. So I guess I'm not gonna say are we a lost cause, because I've always thought the solution was economic independence. But what is it going to take? I'll ask this, to get everybody on the same page. Is that even possible? Whoever wants to go, because I don't know. I don't know at this point. I really don't know.
I think that economics would be a tool that we could use. I think it would be effective. But here's the thing. When you're looking at our community as a whole, are you looking at a group that's geared toward the same interests, or are you looking at a group of individuals?
Yep. There you go.
Because
There you go.
Say that one more time, King Gene,
There you
for the
go.
people in the back.
Are you looking at a group of people that are working towards the same interests, or are you looking at a group of individuals?
There you go.
And the reason why I asked that question, because as a group of individuals, now I'm in this group, I'm standing around these people, but I got my own agenda.
Yep.
And I'm not willing to take my agenda and put it in the back seat for the benefit of the whole group. So I don't, like I said, the economics would be a good starting point. But I think really we need to get down a little bit deeper than that, because you can't have economics or anything like that if you don't first address the problem with family.
So what do you think we need to start from first, King Gene? Therapy within the homes, within Black homes.
Absolutely, my brother. Because it go back to something I say. And I caught some flack about this, y'all. I don't, but I'm gonna say it again. There's a couple people that called my hand that I know and love, and they didn't appreciate me saying it. But if you are a Black person in America, you need therapy. You can't be Black in America and not be traumatized.
Yeah.
Come on now. So if we can start to work toward resolving some of the issues that traumatize us, then maybe we can make a move toward coming back together as a family. And then the more family structures that you have, then the better communities that you have. and then as a community as a whole, we can get back on better footing, man. But I don't know, man. I might just be talking. I'm blowing smoke right now.
What do you think, Nurse Roxy?
I will be sending something to you, CJ, regarding what he just said about the trauma,
Mm-hmm.
because I do believe what I think a lot of us miss is the fact that when you are, let's think, for example, I'll hold it off to another time. I'll hold it off to another time. But I'll say this. When there was another point that came to my mind, but I'm gonna wait until you ask me about it, if you even get around to. If
Go
not,
ahead. Go ahead. Let's break it down. Go ahead.
because when I think about, like, let's say classical conditioning, remember the Pavlov dog, the dog that would salivate after he's been trained long enough, that the food was going to be coming. So now we just had to ring the bell, right? To me, I think that that's kind of like the sick, twisted way that psychology, behavioral sciences have just been kind of designed in a way to like target us and to look at the way we think and the way we operate. Now, one may argue, well, this is just for human beings altogether. They were studying human behavior. But when you think about the kind of vulnerability that we tend to have, we are usually the people who are going to suffer from those kind of practices. So now just think about how you can create a situation where you you have a person in a neighborhood where there's trash all over the place, right? The school district is just disheveled all over the place. A lot of the issues that they were fighting for with Brown versus the Board of Education at Topeka is the same issue that we're dealing with today, right? All right. And I'm sure in Mississippi, you see some high schools that are still segregated.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. So when so it's one of those things where it's like, I think that if we are not careful to deal with the type of trauma that we have to deal with, whether it's finding out that you have a young person in your family who's abusing drugs, committed suicides, been murdered, neighbors murdered, this is such a gloom and doom perspective you would have on things. This reminds me of the conversation we had the other day where I was saying nobody's going to make me feel guilty. I love brother Dr. Umar Johnson, but he's not going to make me feel guilty for me saying that I want something better for my son. It's not because I want to be white, or I don't want to be black, or I don't want to be down, or I think I'm better than anybody. It's because I have made huge sacrifices. I don't live lavish. I live under my means. I treat myself here and there, but I live under my means because I want to be able to have resources that my son is able to tap into so that he doesn't have to be in the toxic environment that I grew up in. I grew up in environments that I consider toxic, and when you are exposed to that kind of stuff, that's why when she's like family. A neighbor of mine's actually suddenly passed away, had a heart attack, 50 years old, suddenly passed away. And it's crazy because she was smoking cigarettes for years, and she was a pretty large stature as well. And when I was told that she just died suddenly, I thought to myself, it probably was cardiac related, you know what I mean? Because she's smoking cigarettes all the time. But if you think about some of the behaviors that you see people engage in to get through, whether it's substance use, whether it's legal or illegal, because I still don't understand how cigarettes can be sold at a store. That it doesn't even make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But a lot of times we start looking and digging. You start looking at who's lobbying what. You'd be surprised the people who are funding the the tobacco organizations that that kind of have to turn a blind eye, even though they clearly have been doing research that's pointing out all the issues that can happen, with prolonged cigarette smoking. But again, we need to have a certain awareness about what this constant exposure to toxic, stressors, what it's doing to us. And if we're not going to be honest about that, you're going to continue to have generations of children. You'll be like, how did you end up like this? Your parents, they were educated. They tried so hard with you. Yeah, because they were exposed to a bunch of stuff, family members included. Because you got some toxic family members that is not, they have fallen for the foolishness as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know, but I think we need to. I think we really need to start focusing more on the tangible aspect. I don't care. When you bring up reparations, and to get back to that,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's always talking about, well, we got to research this, we got to research that. What? Why? What is there to research? Didn't we just give during this pandemic everybody a stimulus check? Well, no research into that. Y'all just did it. Or am I tripping? You know what I'm saying? Or was it heavy research that went into that? Every time it comes to us, it's always a waiting game, or some kind of waiting process that comes to us. But when it comes to everybody else, when it comes to, like you had brought up in the DMs, all these orders put in place to protect Asian Americans, when it comes to things like that, there is no research involved. It's just done. But
You know what they did, CJ? You know what they
what's that?
did? They
What's that?
gave us the media coverage of all the Asian people that were being attacked. And if you just happen to be Asian and you were graduated into the class of being Asian, because there were some folks who were from the Middle Eastern region that were graduated into Asian status just for them to push that narrative. Then and that all of it kind of really fell down on this whole thing that Asian people were attacked economically because first of all the talk about the Wong flu and all of that, and then they were being attacked, and really when it came down to it, it was an economic thing. They said they felt like Asian people, um, they were impacted negatively economically, specifically because of the pandemic. Because initially it was looked at as a age. I mean, they see the reason why. Even as I'm saying it to you right now, how foolish it sounds, because they made up so many different stories, they blended together just so they can say, "Here we have an acceptable minority group, and we're gonna show you how we treat our acceptable minority group."
And plus, they got their money together though too.
Yeah.
When you
And
got
do you
your
see them
money
voting?
together, yeah, at all. When's the last time you seen an Asian celebrity out in the Asian communities trying to convince them to vote?
Nope.
They have the least voter turnout, and I'm like, they don't care because they're gonna get money regardless. But that is what happens when you have your economic game together.
Yep.
It don't
Mm,
matter who the president is. It the only thing that matters is the paper.
yep.
That's the only thing that matters. Because I don't know if you remember that cop, that Asian cop that shot that black man in that apartment building a couple years ago. I think his name was Peter Liang.
Peter Liang. Mm-hmm.
Peter Liang.
Mm-hmm.
His people got together and said, "Oh no, you won't do this."
Yep.
Not like that. They cut a check and look at Peter Liang now. He probably's out somewhere patrolling the streets once again.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying. Like when you got your money together, and that's I can respect the LBGT for this. They put their money where their mouth is. I can't do nothing but respect that. Uh when it came to Obama, Obama said
Yep.
he didn't support gay marriage originally. If
Mm-hmm.
you go back, he'd be like, nah, nah, gay marriage wasn't it's between a man. I mean, marriage is between a man and a woman.
Mm-hmm.
LBGT said, oh, really? What do this $10 million check say? Oh, well, yeah, I support it now, and we about to do all these things to protect gay people and get laws for gay people put in place. So yeah, money talks.
The White House was a rain. Remember, the White House had rainbow lights.
Money talks, and that's the thing. Like, and I feel like until we get our economic game together, I've always said, not to go way back to Trayvon Martin, but I've always said when that happened with Trayvon Martin, every black person in the state of Florida should have stopped buying from any white-owned establishment. Oh, George Zimmerman would have been put in jail overnight if all black people said, you know what, we only gonna rock with these organizations because y'all on some BS right now.
Mm-hmm.
Them white owners would have been like, y'all better lock his ass up. Y'all
Mm-hmm.
better do something because now you playing with my money.
And I don't know dude like that.
Right. Exactly. Y'all better go get him because now they talking about, oh, they ain't gonna come to my store. Oh no. Oh
Right.
no. Go get his ass tonight. He would have been in jail that night. And I remember
Right.
even when Trump was running, we doing all this protesting about Trump this, Trump that. For what? For
Yeah.
what? Trump ain't talking to us.
Mm-hmm.
You're not talking to us. Now, all 50,000 black folks out there, imagine if we took $100 from every person out there. It could have been a black Walmart, a black bank built. All that could have been done overnight. I'm not trying to tell people what to do with their paper because they paper is they paper. But at the same time, you don't get any kind of results if you don't have no financial backing behind you because money talks at
So,
the
do
end.
you think that that's why they tend to promote through music and entertainment, having Black people knowing that we're so vulnerable, knowing that we have the insecurities that they have educated us and indoctrinated us to have? Is that the reason why they have us so preoccupied with the Gucci and the Louis, and all the
100%.
Ooh, we.
right.
I call that nigga shit. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm,
Because
Listen, y'all.
we obsessed with that. Go ahead,
mm-hmm.
I
King B.
I did a. I was going, and I tell you what. You know what, Nurse Roxy, I think you might be a. You might have a little Miss Cleo in you. I think you might be a little psychic. But now look,
Maybe.
I was going. I was gonna have that as one of my next shows, but uh, just now I'm just learning about this term called people who are materialists.
Oh,
You
okay.
got non-materialist and you got materialist. And
Mm,
so I'm looking at this article. I'm trying to figure out, okay, so what's the thrust of the article? Now notice something. It was odd to me. People become materialists because of trauma that they experienced while growing up. Maybe
mm,
they were in poverty. Maybe they were raised by a single parent. Maybe they saw domestic violence. And so when they get older, what happens is they develop a desire for material things to offset the traumas that they experienced when they were younger.
right.
So they
Mm-hmm.
so they use material things to pad themselves so that the things that they experience won't have an effect on them. Whereas the non-materialists are just individuals who, they grew up normally, so-called normally, and so material things have their place, but they're not most important. And I think the majority of
They
people
grew
that
up
you
normal.
see, they are materialists. I
Mm,
think they are. Think about that. Because what we got? 80% of the single parent families led by our sisters,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you have a great percentage of the black men that are in prison. So you talking about people that's, and once again, like I said, you cannot grow up in this country black and not be traumatized.
Can't.
So it's like it's a highway that's leading right into a person becoming a materialist. Material things are the number one thing, and nothing else matters. And so they're just playing into it because, like the article mentioned, the trauma that's involved causes you to have some padding. And so, only thing that they're doing as a commercial entity, they're showcasing to us the latest, the greatest, and the most expensive.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
And again, symbolism. Going back to what CJ initially, had the topic of focus tonight,
right.
symbolism. Because again, I had made a mention of this before a couple of shows back. Dr. Naeem Akbar, in his book, um, Psychological Images and Chains of Slavery, or is it Chains of Image, Psychological Images and Chains of Psychological Slavery? No, I don't think that's what it is. Images and Chains of Psychological Slavery. Anyway, Dr. Naeem Akbar, something around there, that title. He talks about that tokenism. If you give um, the overseer, if you give a black man, I even should say the overseer, if he's working in the field and you give him any type of position of authority, you give him the master's hat, you give him the master's boots, you give him the master's whip, and he the man. And the thing about it is we have gotten off on that so badly that we'll sit here and let people tell us that they are wise about life. We'll follow them on social media, we'll listen to what they have to say. Why? Because they showed you that they bought a Bugatti. Like, we've equated that a person has access to money, they can spend the money. And mind you, it seems like the more foolish the person is with the money, is the more people follow them, is the more influential they are, right? And so, if you really think about that, it's like we are so vulnerable. And that's my thing that I like to always stress to people. Black people are very vulnerable. It's like when you have a child out there and you say to yourself, well, with the pandemic, it's cold outside. I don't want you out there in the cold playing around because you most likely gonna get a cold. You go most likely something most likely gonna happen to you. That's how black people are. It could be anything. I'm telling you, we win at losing, and I'm not saying it in the sense that we are lost cause, but it's like it seems like we are so vulnerable to just about any kind of thing that's going on. We're vulnerable to it. If anybody would be distracted, would be held back because of the pandemic, making them drop out of school, it's gonna be us. How many? If we really looked at the data now, I'm sure black children, if there was some slight risk that children would not be able to recover academically because of the pandemic, I bet you it was us. If
Mm,
it's a slight risk that some people were just going to lose work and never be able to go back to work for some reason, they just could not get back to work for some reason, I bet you it was us. I mean, just like anything that you think that people are at risk for, we gonna be up in there representing, overrepresenting, based on the numbers that they say of us, or in this country, will be overrepresented in those in those that at risk group.
mm. King Gene, is there anything you want to add? Because I do want to kind of switch up the
Mhm.
topic because I think this is also an important topic as well. The next thing I'm about to bring up, is there anything you want to add to that?
Now I'm still reeling, man, from Nurse Roxy describing how she felt last week, man, or the last time we did podcast. I just, for the life of me, I don't understand why in every other ethnic group it's okay to elevate yourself, because they even have a term for it. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So why is it so detrimental for us as individuals in our community to do that? Listen, if I don't want to see drunk individual wine nose everywhere, if I don't want to see crackheads on my block, if I don't want to see men loitering and not have anything, if I want to remove myself from this situation, then what give you the right to judge me as being somebody that what they call them, you a sellout?
A
How you
sellout, a coon, whatever they say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
how you judge me for that? Because now think about it. What is one of the main things that as a community we're not able to do? We're not able to pass on anything to
Mhm.
our children.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, but that's kind of, that's kind of ridiculous, because if your thought process is that this is cooning, if your thought process is that this is selling out, you'll never be able to pass anything on, because
Exactly.
you're not concerned with the apparatus that you would use to acquire what you need to pass on.
Right.
That's why I said when I couldn't, and I'm just being honest. When after I heard Nurse Roxy say that, I sat down after the podcast was over, and I just could not reconcile that thought. I think
Mhm.
that's just the most ridiculous thing that as a community we could believe in. It's just ridiculous. It
Yep.
is.
You know what's crazy too, and I guess this is kind of like a transition. I actually did a video about this the other day, and you shared it, King Gene, and thank you for that, by the way. Um, Even because it spawns into this because I talked about yesterday, and I've been on these panels a lot,
Mhm.
and I've always said the solution. I don't think people really want solutions. You know why? Especially here on YouTube, because if you really start giving solutions and putting them into action, guess what? You ain't gonna have nothing else to talk about.
Mhm.
You ain't gonna have nothing else to talk about. And one thing that I've noticed as I'm being on some of these panels, and I say this respectfully, not disrespecting anybody else's platform. That's why I'm not gonna say any platform's name, but I'm just giving you my point of view. We I promote not being average. I promote being better than average.
Mhm.
And I've gotten pushback on that. And which
Mhm.
is fine. I don't care about that. And some of the responses were that's labeling, that's name calling.
Yeah.
Society needs average people. And that's some of the responses that I've gotten. And unfortunately, I can't be responsible for all of society. The only people that I can be responsible for at the total end of the day is myself.
Mhm.
But I don't believe a man, especially a black man, can afford to be average. And I think this is the disconnect that I'm having with some of the people that are older than me. And I know that some of the people, well, they say you have to have balance. Like I believe from the ages of 16 to 30, that a man should be consistently focusing on his grind, his career, his money, his body. I think that's it. You get you a little chick every now and then, do what you need to do, then boom. But besides that, those need to be your main focuses, because those are the tools that you really need out here to be successful in the game and successful in life. Now, some of the pushback that I've gotten is, and we keep talking about this money thing too. I'm gonna speak on that too. This whole six-figure thing. Never once in any of these panels and any of these conversations that I bring up money. People always will bring up money when they talk to me, because they assume that I make what I make because I am a
Mhm,
nurse, right? So they
mhm,
quick to bring up that conversation towards me. I never bring up money,
mhm,
but let's not act like money isn't a crucial point of what we're doing. We
mhm,
just talked about it. If you don't have no financial backing, you don't have no power, you don't have no
mhm,
resources. So that
mhm,
matters. That
mhm,
matters in the game. I think we are at a point to where they are trying to convince everybody to just lazy on by,
of
to
course.
just lean on by. We cannot afford to be, especially black men. You cannot afford it. As I've stated before on several panels, a pack of chicken is $28, right? A pack
Mhm,
of wingdings is $28. Whether you like it or not, this is not the 60s. This is not the 50s. This is not the 70s, not the 80s, not even the 90s. You cannot afford to live the way you used to live, young man. And unfortunately, this world does not respect average people. That's what I think,
mhm,
especially average men. We always want to talk about women this, women that, women this. And that's why I kind of stay away from some of them conversations, because I think
mhm,
they're redundant at the end of the
of
day.
course. Mhm,
You see the winners. You see the people who are winning. You see the people who are being successful with women and female nature and all that stupid shit that we keep talking about over and over and over
mhm,
again. Like I'm so sick of this conversation. Like it don't make no sense. But why do you think we stray away? Like, why do you think some people are straying away from the point of being average? And now I'm totally F being average now. Because I used to say, well, that's cool if that's what you want to do. But I ain't about that. Now I'm saying F it. If you want to be an average individual in life, and that don't necessarily mean average money, because it's a lot of people who make a lot of money but are still very average themselves. That don't mean nothing to me.
mhm,
Average to me is your mindset, your mentality. And I feel like
mhm.
if you have an above average mentality, automatically your paper gonna come with it. Why do y'all think so many people are trying to sway people away from being above average? I could not believe I got pushback on that topic. I was like, wow, like, and then people were like, well, I make this amount of money. I don't care. I never brought that up. Never brought that up. You did. So what do y'all think about that?
Now, I've heard Nellie Fuller Jr. say this. Nellie Fuller Jr. has said that when Black people greet each other, for example, if you say like, "What are you up to?" or "How you been," we should respond, and I'm paraphrasing, kind of like, "I'm working on something." Not "I'm good," "I'm okay," "I'm chilling." You should say like, "Still got this thing I'm working on," and that, because his theory is that we should be only having constructive communication with one another. It should always be constructive. And so I think, so what you're saying is, we are letting people who do not have our best interests at heart, who could care less about our outcomes, right? Tell us what to value. Tell us what is important. And so because of that, I'm not going to say that some of us are not, like, buying into some of the foolishness that's getting us distracted and having us, like, pay attention to this instead of this other thing we need to be focused on. Um, but we do live in a country that is based on that kind of stratification, and you do need to reward people for being average, because that is how the that's how you can maintain an underclass, right? So we have to actually be able to tell ourselves that, you know what, I don't want to be another generation of us, of working at Walmart, for example. Not knocking the person who works at Walmart, but I'm talking about if you're a frontline cashier at Walmart and you realize, I can barely take a day off, I can barely spend time with my family, this job is stressing me out. You don't need to be up, like your child doesn't need to come and replace you in that position, right? We need to understand the dangers of mediocrity. I'm not saying,
Right.
look at it. If that position at that Walmart means that you're the first generation person in your household to actually hold a full-time job, then that may be progress for your family. It's quite possible that may be progress for your family. But then you should want your child now to go ahead and outdo you. You understand what I'm saying? So if I catch you on your climb, then yeah, maybe I catch you and maybe I perceive what you're doing as average, but who knows what you had to fight to get to that point. So we do need to be sensitive to that as well, that our perception could be that someone is average and actually they're overcoming many things, right? So we do need to be conscious of that. But I think the mediocrity, a lot of it does come out of the music we listen to, of the values that we've decided to take on as ours. Um, and when I talk about drug use, I really want to really stress this. What we have allowed marijuana to do to our community and our families and our minds is, I think we could probably spend a whole day talking about the impact of marijuana and marijuana use, because it's an amotivational drug and it leads to so many other drugs. And then you have people who are mixing it with all kinds of other stuff. Come on, you're a nurse, CJ. You've heard people talking about promethazine, right?
Yeah.
And you see these guys having seizures, young men having seizures. You see these celebrities having seizures. And then I try to express this to young folks all the time. You do realize that that is very strange and uncommon for a young person who has no prior medical history to be having seizures and in and out the hospital, like you hear Lil Wayne and all those people. That is not a normal thing for a person to engage in. But they got a
Yeah.
whole music culture around it. You know what I mean? You got people singing about it, mollies and all kinds of other stuff. And mind you, a lot of these young men talking about this stuff, they're getting it right there in the studios, because those studios, you have producers and everybody else that want them to be out of their mind. Look at what happened to the young man Juice World.
Yeah.
And I try to highlight the people. And listen, it's not no old school talk. It ain't no old school talk.
No, this is real.
You make bad decisions when you are under those substances. I've heard of men going ahead and young men killing someone, and then they clear up and they're in jail thinking to yourself, I did all of that. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Careful
I
about
mean,
that.
personally, I don't partake in any drugs, any weed or anything like that. I mean, I'm not knocking you if you do weed and everything like that, but I do know what that can lead to. It's definitely a gateway, and I'm not here to preach to anybody, but I've sat up here and I watched dozens of episodes of the show Intervention, and it's funny because we get to, ironically, most of the people in Intervention are white. I don't know if you ever seen those shows, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they're it's
Mm-hmm.
like 95% of those people that's on that show. It's a major problem
Mm-hmm.
in the white community, but like I said, weed. If that's what they want to do, then cool. I just don't do it. I don't date women that do it. I've never have. I've never been attracted to it, but I just I'm sorry, King Gene. I ain't gonna let you go ahead and speak on it. What you think, King Gene, about the whole average thing?
No, I can most definitely see Nurse Roxy's point, but I think too, especially for men, like you mentioned, there is absolutely no room. You can't be average, man. You can't do it. You can't do it, and you especially cannot be average if you have goals that you have set for yourself in life. It's just not going to work. Listen to me. I have gone into interviews, and uh, your resume is full of accolades, things, colleges that you graduated from, licenses that you've acquired, work that you've done, and you have to be better. And because of the skin tone that I am, I have to be at least three times as better as the next man. So so it's almost required that you not be average. You can't be.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be. So why go into the situation where I'm looking at my life and I'm saying, okay, this is enough. I'm gonna be all right here being mediocre, as Nurse Roxy mentioned. I'm fine with being mediocre. But then you'll notice too that individuals who are fine with being mediocre, they have things about themselves that they're suffering as a result of. Their families are suffering. There are difficulties that are present in their life because they've accepted the notion of being mediocre.
Yep.
So if I look across the way, let me make it personal, CJ, then I hand it back to you.
Oh, go
But
ahead.
if I look across the way at my young 12-year-old daughter, and there are things that she needs, and I don't go out and pursue those things because I'm okay with being mediocre, then the fault lies with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then what kind of example am I setting for her?
Mm-hmm. And for the man she's going to be attracted to, the men she's going to want.
And then and another argument, and like I said, I say this respectfully. Somebody had brought up that, well, a lot of divorces are brought up upon doctors, lawyers, because they don't have a lot of time.
Okay.
And I say that, well, when those women, majority of those women that got with him, they had no idea what they were signing up for. And to me, that's her fault. If you with a man that is providing that kind of lifestyle, that a doctor, that a lawyer, that somebody who has to work a lot of hours in order to get their resources, if that's the kind of man that you chose, you have to deal with the consequences that come with being with that man. Just like you want to deal with the positive consequences that come with being with that man, you got to deal with the negatives. He's not going to be there all the time. And then on top of that, like I was telling them, like, I think a lot of problems that a lot of dudes are having is that 98% of what they do is for a woman and not for themselves. You can't be like that because you're going to be disappointed when it don't go your way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. Listen, I don't care. You could be the finest dude on the planet, had the best sex on the planet, had the best body on the planet, and it's always going to be somebody better than you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Point blank. Period. And if a woman break bad on you, with all that being put in, and you doing it solely for her, you're gonna be solely disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the wrong motivation. And I think a lot of these dudes are solely motivated by sex. And I think that is a awful thing. You should want it for yourself. Listen, I love my girl. Love my girl. But none of this that I do is for her.
Right.
This is just a perk of
Mm-hmm.
being with me.
Mm-hmm.
You dig what I'm saying? Heaven forbid something happened. But if it did, I'm not gonna be to the point where I'm ready to go shoot her mama, slap everybody that she know, because that's how some of these dudes get.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
They
Very
ready to blow up.
emotional.
Right, they ready to blow up everything. And I'm like, because you're doing it for the wrong reason. You have to do it for yourself. You have to not want to be average for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
then, like, if a woman say, you know what, I want a $200,000 a year dude. Well, guess what? You're gonna have to pay a $200,000 a year price because
Right.
everything comes with a price. And I don't know why people
Mm-hmm.
can't see that though. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why people can't see that.
Mm-hmm.
CJ, let me ask you a question though. And oh man, I tell you what, I am happy to be on this panel tonight because a lot of things that I wanted to say have already been said. Nurse Roxy made a powerful point earlier. Powerful. I didn't catch it. I had to think about it now because I'm kind of slow. She talked about
Sure you
herself.
are.
She said that she lives below her means, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
She lives below her means. Now, think about this for a second. If you want a $200,000 guy, you want him to make that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you expecting him to make this money so that you'll have an abundance to blow? Or are we saying when you make this $200,000, we're gonna do like Nurse Roxy, we're gonna live below our means so that we can save, but at the same time live a good life so that we'll have something to pass on. So now if the intention is to live below our means, then chances are that brother is not gonna have to work all those crazy hours because there will be nothing for him to work those crazy hours for. Because
Right.
everything you got paid for, the house paid for, the car paid for, you done been saving up money. So if you got to get a new car, it's paid for. So what are we talking about? I'll put it to you like this. it sounds to me like a lot of people just enjoy the thought of just wasting resources.
Yep.
You know what else too? And I'm about to get to you, Nurse Roxy, because I do want a female perspective on this. A lot of the dudes that I see come online and complain with this whole red pill talk, and I some of it is good
Mhm,
information, but for the
mhm.
majority of it, when I see these dudes come on internet and complain, I take a good look at them. They mostly fat and out of shape. They mostly live with their mama. They mostly broke. And we want to talk about submit. Bruh, what is she submitting to? When you listen, and I bring up Mike Rashid all the time, dudes like Mike Rashid don't have those problems. Not saying that he don't get no problems from chicks, but they're severely reduced. When you see a guy that look the way he do, that's on his purpose, that's about his money, ain't nothing else come between him and his goals. That attracts men and women. Men,
Of
they when I say men, it attracts them because they respect what he does. I
course.
respect Mike Rashid.
Absolutely.
Mhm,
He is somebody that I would want to model most of my life like. I respect that, the hustle side of him. You dig what I'm saying? I respect the work he's put in to look the way he does. I respect that.
mhm,
And women automatically gonna want to be around that because they feel protected, they feel safe,
mhm.
financially secure. You're not gonna see dudes like him coming online. And that's probably why I don't have a million subscribers, because I don't keep talking about that shit over and over again,
Oh yeah.
because it's the solution is right here to me that will alleviate most of the problems. You become the absolute best version of yourself that you can be, and that's going to ultimately attract and propel people away from your life.
That's true.
And so, like from a woman's standpoint, Nurse Roxy, how do you feel when you see all these men getting online? And I'm not trying to crap on the dudes because some of them do make
Mhm,
valid points.
mhm.
What do you think when you see a lot of these dudes get online and they say, well, female nature is this, females are that, blah, blah, blah? What do you think about that?
Well, some of them are like, they are following these channels. It's kind of like they're in an echo chamber. They're hearing people say the same things over and over again. They're buying into it. They're just saying it over and over again. And then they have kind of like developed a certain perspective, right? So then everything kind of like falls into that storyline that they have in their head. So I think that's part of the problem. But I think that also they are trying to find solutions, so we should give them some credit. I think that they initially encounter either the information or seeking out the information because they're trying to look for a solution. So we have to give them credit where credit's due in that regard. Now, where I think some of the issues kind of get off is when we start getting into issues around um, like fat bashing, for example, or like I don't know if you want to call it fat shaming. That's what they call it. Um, or like you're start getting into this whole thing about women who have children, or who want to like I don't know, like some of the topics though they get they'll constantly cover. It gets into such a thing where it seems like they're so angry at women that you really think to yourself like, who was that woman that let you down? Who was that person that really disappointed you? And also, why is it that you feel you need to have that perspective on women, or be so and again, here, let me also get this out here. Men need a space for them to speak with other men.
Facts. I agree.
You need to be able to put your thoughts out there, and it needs to be open enough that even a complete stranger can log on to your YouTube channel, and you're going live and say, I want something to share with you, brother, about this. I think that men need that, right? So I'm not against the manosphere, but when we get off
Yeah.
on certain these topics where it's like you could be like it's like you could be, I don't know if you say psychic, because you could almost tell where the conversation is about to go, right? And it gets to sometimes it gets to a place where it's just so anti-black women that the table is, it's almost like the table is so prepared for that kind of mess that you can almost like predict what's going to happen when certain people, certain guests are on a panel, or when certain topics come up. You already know where it's about to go to. Bonshikwa talk, and all black women are this, and this is the reason why we have to leave this country and they other. So again, when I say date other, I meant to say like date women of other, ethnicities or whatever. So again, I think when I hear a lot of it, it just sounds like men who are very, hurt. They're broken. They found places where they can, again, echo chambers. They can hear people saying the same things over and over again. And a lot of it, I think, also is a little excuse for them not to take a look inward.
Let me
Because
ask you
at
something,
the end
Nurse
of the
Roxy.
day,
Let me
sorry.
ask you this.
Sure,
If
sure.
you see a dude, okay, well, let me just ask you this. A dude
hmm
with a, let's just say a dude, he's making great money. Let's
hmm
just say, I don't know, 180,000 a year.
Okay.
Let's say he's in shape. He looks well. He dresses nice. He smells good.
hmm
He's a hard worker. What are the chances um, that you think he's going to have problems, or females are going to give him problems? Now, I understand problems are going to arise in any situation, but just the bullshit shit test and all that kind of stuff, a man who really has his stuff together, what do you think the chances of a
Not
woman
much.
really testing him?
Not much. Women are going to be a lot more compliant. I think that you're going to have women who are a lot more understanding and opening. You asked a question a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so ago, about the 200 and over, earner man, him, or the quote unquote average guy. He could have 200 other women.
Right.
Which one you're going to go with. So again, it goes back to, if you want my personal perspective, yeah, women are going to be more agreeable and go along with, because you see the potential for you to benefit from that as a woman. So it's kind of like a self-preservation kind of thing.
Exactly. And that's what I wanted to hear you say, because to me, solutions are simple. Solutions are there. But when you talk about solutions and you actually apply those solutions, and that's the thing that I had to learn about myself. When I actually started applying solutions to my life, the
Mm-hmm.
better I felt about myself and the less I started to complain. The more I work out, the better I feel. The less I didn't have to complain about, because I know I'm hitting a certain goal. And once I hit that goal, it's going to be all right. When I started going to school, okay, I had less to complain about because now I'm making good money. It's really less negative stuff to talk about once you start actually applying the solutions and doing what you're supposed to do. And the reason that these dating coaches and all these podcasts continue to do what they do, one, it's a business. I'm not knocking nobody's hustle.
Mm-hmm.
But two, they understand that the average guy, they're not going to apply the solutions. They're
Mm-hmm.
not. Most 80%, 80 to 90% of men will not apply these solutions. They just like watching videos. They just like watching videos and buying books and buying courses and buying stupid programs on how to DM 100,000 women per day. And they understand, and they notice that, and they know that.
Mm-hmm.
And see, this is why sometimes the marketing scheme, the marketing is genius. So I take a podcast like Fresh and Fit, right? Two
Mm-hmm.
very average dudes to me, average looking dudes. Nothing about them stands out, but that's the majority. Most men are average,
Mm-hmm.
and most men would love to see an average dude go off on women all the time and do all that kind of
Yes.
them tactics. They can see themselves through Fresh and Fit.
Yep.
That is why Fresh and Fit will blow up, because most men are average and they wish they could live that fantasy. They live vicariously through them. But when you see a guy like Mike Rashid, this is why Mike Rashid will never be mainstream. One, and do you know who Mike Rashid is?
No, I don't.
He's a personal trainer on YouTube, right?
Okay.
I'm gonna show you Mike Rashid in a second. I'm gonna pull him up. You know who Mike Rashid is, don't you, King Gene?
Absolutely. He used to be a part of a group, man, that I still follow. It's an older gentleman. What is the name of this older guy? Older guy with a beard.
CT Fletcher.
CT Fletcher. Now
Uh-huh.
CT Fletcher reminds me of my father. They had the same stature, but I used to follow CT Fletcher. Every morning I got up and I didn't feel like working out. I would watch a CT Fletcher video. He'd cuss me out. I'd get in the gym.
Yep.
So that's who I know Mike Rashid from.
I'm gonna show you this, and this is Mike Rashid. He's a
That's the
personal
Okay.
man. There he is.
he's a personal trainer. I'm trying to get to the and I want to show you his before and after picture, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm making a point, because if you go around these red pill circles, they'll say, well, he's a natural. He was born like that. Clearly, dude wasn't born like this. He had to put in that kind of work to look the way
Mm-hmm.
he worked, to look the way he
Mm-hmm.
looks, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
he's a millionaire because he built his own
Right.
business. He's a boxer, so women feel safe around him. This is what happens when you apply the work,
Right.
and you apply it to the highest degree. Now he's in a polygamous relationship with 2 women, and they sound like they couldn't be happier. Now, I'm not saying that lifestyle's for everybody, because it's not, but you should see the way that how them women look on his arm when they talk about their polygamous relationship. That is America's, in my opinion, that's America's worst nightmare, because he took himself from average to above average. He put in the work, ultra masculine, smart, entrepreneurial, and all these women want to smash him too, and they are okay with being with one another to be up under him. That's a problem. That's a problem to the mainstream, because now what you're sending to men is, I can actually see the work now. I've seen the work, the fruit of your labor. Most of these dating coaches and everything like that, they be dating all these ugly broads, and half of them is married and be going through all this other stuff, but not him. But we can't put him on the Summer Jam screen, because that's going by nature, it's going to defy physics according to them. The feminists going to be in an uproar. How dare he bring these 2 women to this award show and promoting this type of lifestyle, treating these women like dogs, and they are so happy to be with him, and blah 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 blah. That's a problem. Can't do that. That's why he ain't gonna never be fully accepted in that red pill space. It was dudes calling him a beta, blue pill, and all that type of shit. I said, what?
How?
Really?
How? Exactly. How?
Wow.
It don't even make sense. And that's what I'm saying. People are scared. I'm saying that to say people do not really want to push being above average. That is what happens when you put in the work, and you are not, because you once you get to a level that he's on, you don't have to take nobody's shit, at all. And that's we can't. No, they say, oh no, we can't have that.
Accountability and discipline.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think, King Gene?
Nurse Roxy just took two of the pillars of my channel: accountability, discipline, and determination. Those 3 pillars of my channel. Listen, let me tell you something. Work is hard. Work is hard, man. And you got to have some endurance. You got to have pockets of effort that you put in over time. And if these individuals who had the audacity to look at this man and not recognize that he put in the work, if you're not going to, give him his props for the work that he put in, then that tells me that you are not ready to do the work that you need to do. Because for the people in our society, in our community, who are putting in the work, we applaud everybody else that's doing the same thing. Like Nurse Roxy said, you walk up to a guy and you say, he asks you how you doing. You said, man, listen, man, I got this project I'm working on, man, and I think if I put these last few weeks into it, that the project will work out. Then the next thing you know, the next time he see you, he'll be like, man, how the project go for you? Or maybe he'll have something, So if you can't recognize that there's value in the work that this man put forth, then maybe you don't value work.
Yep.
That's a fact. Let me show y'all this clip real quick, and I'm gonna pause the music, and I'm gonna just be real quick, but I want y'all to pay attention to the body language of the women. I want you to look at how these men are actually in shock by and I'll try to find a specific point to where he said I put in the work. That might be on another part, but I just want you to pay attention to this one clip real quick, and I'm gonna mute my mic if y'all can mute y'all mics, but
super honest, so we can talk about whatever. Like, yo, like,
so I'm neglecting her. Is this something you have to
we talk through. I talk through every fucking thing. I try to stay ahead of anything before it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? So, and what makes success in any relationship, monogamous or polygamous, is communication, right? And honesty. So it's like, look, if somebody's feeling a certain way, let's talk about it.
Let me ask you a question. If you're getting a gift, like randomly, you're trying to be spontaneous, trying to spread,
Now, I just want to show y'all, if y'all could see the body language of the women, they was just, you know, they were in awe, you know. And I think, and DJ Academics was hating in this interview. To me, he was low key hating, but it's so foreign. And this is how I know a lot of people are scared of men, particularly black men, becoming above average, because they just, that would be a problem, because it gives them more of an excuse to why they can't get to where they get to. This is what it's hard to look yourself in the mirror and say, damn, I'm a loser because of me. That's a hard thing to do. And if you continually promote people of success that are doing it and really living the life that you want to live, that's a problem. See, people like Kevin Samuels, and I like Kevin Samuels too, but Kevin Samuels a little older, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people can't relate to that. Mike is a little bit younger than Kevin. And Mike is out here really putting in the work on every aspect, not just sitting here talking about high value this, high value that, which is cool. I like Kevin. I listen to his messages. I like what he's doing. But I think Mike Rashid is, to me, is the prototype. Now, again, the whole polygamy thing, I'm not talking about that because that's not for everybody. But just the cooperation that comes with being on your grind in all aspects, from your peers, from men and women alike. That's the point I'm trying to get across. So I don't know. What did you think about that? Seeing him with those two women, Nurse Roxy. You muted.
Yeah, sorry. They seemed like they were quite happy. They were quite satisfied, and their needs were being met. You know, women for the most part can be very simple, in the sense where satisfying them can be pretty simple if you actually have what you need to have to satisfy, or what they need to be satisfied. And apparently those women they're getting what they want, what they need. They seem, the body language was, I'm comfortable, I'm safe, this is my provider, this is my source, I'm happy to be here. It wasn't a whole lot of talking. It didn't seem like they were, felt like they were in defense mode, like, don't talk about my, like, he can stand on his own.
Let me show you. I want to add one more thing. It's another clip, and I think I found it. Let me. Y'all know I don't like these clowns, but sometimes they have a real dude on their show every now and then. So let me get to it.
So my question for you: what do you define your relationship right now as?
In terms of what?
Like the dynamic here. What do you define it as?
Oh, I'm a polygamist. You know what I'm saying? By nature, we share very similar upbringing with Islam. And that's just part of the culture, you know. And if you study and you look at why that came about, it was never for like, oh, menages and this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? Let's say we brothers and he goes off to war, right? And X amount of time goes by and we don't hear from him. You know, back then there's no phones and shit like that.
Right.
We assume the worst. So his family is my responsibility. So now his wife is now my wife, and his kids are my kids. You know what I'm saying? That's how it was. And people gotta understand, even now, and that was like Africa, Middle East, that area, you know, and I'm sure Far Asia, India, and then there's other reasons for that. But if you look at the world, like, there's more women than men.
Yep.
And in America specifically, there's 10 million more women than men, right? And out of those available people, men is less available men because we go to prison at higher rates, more of us in the military than women. They calculate gay men and not gay women. It's interesting, right? A lot of gay men, and we die fast, you know what I'm saying? So there's not a lot of
prospects for women.
Right?
Yep.
And people are like, I'm a monogamist. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a polygamist and you're lying about it.
Yeah.
Or the women are in denial. Women that we're attracted to do not want a man that other women don't want.
How does a guy get to a level where he can have a poly life like you?
Beat some trials and tribulations.
Niggas, listen, I've been on my heroic journey, so I had to work on myself a lot, bro. You know, it's like, I be telling motherfuckers all the time, bro, you broke, nigga, what you going out for, bro? Like, that's really, it's silly. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be fucking Insta famous or whatever to make money. Learn a craft. You know.
Simple solution, if you ask me, to a lot of stuff. And that was my point of playing that. When a guy like that is giving you the solution, it's not 20, 30, 40 shows you can do on that. You dig? So like that was my whole point in bringing that up. It's not about the women, it's for you. You got to want it for yourself. That's all. That's all. I hate this whole narrative about, well, some people have to be average and everything like that. Like, I just say, black man, you can't afford it, bro. I just cannot imagine and fathom living a life below, when, like I keep saying it, a pack of wingdings is $28. Come on, man. You really want to be mediocre? We talked about the dangers of mediocrity.
It's
Crazy.
dangerous.
Man, it's literally finna be survival of the fittest out here. Like, for real, for real. And people don't even understand what's coming. And
No.
people want to debate me like, oh, well, if he's working too much, 60 hours a week, man, she better be glad he got a damn job at this
I'm
point.
telling you.
Because if he don't work enough, he's the blame.
Yep.
But if he worked too much, he's still to blame. Well, you know what? You better take the best of the litter, because look, you can't have it all.
If a person is even trying to give you pushback, CJ, about even, I know earlier you had mentioned something about a person saying, some of you were discussing, the topic around a doctor who's working too many hours, for example. I would want to know, when is that person, the person dating the doctor, when did you encounter this doctor? Because male or female, they're spending so much time studying that you would have had to know them before they were even pursuing medical school. Because once that person is pursuing medical school, they're already kind of giving you a nice little taste of what life is going to look like, because they are so engulfed in their studies that you would have to know what time it was. So that's a pretty weak argument anyway. You made the commitment when that person was going to school, you seen their potential and you wanted to ride the wave. If after the fact you're boo-hooing and crying and having a tantrum, is because you're selfish and you obviously don't have a plan, no other plan besides riding that person's wave.
Right.
Obviously.
Exactly. What you think, King Gene? After seeing what I just showed you and what you saw, what do you think?
I think that the video that you just showed was the answer to one of the questions that you had in the comments from this guy named D. Will.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about submitting to leadership in regards to our sisters. When you have worked on yourself sufficiently to be the best version of yourself, then when you present yourself as the leader of a household and you want to take on the wife, if you worked on yourself sufficiently, there is no question as to whether or not she can trust your leadership. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have put in the necessary work, she can see the results of the work. And the only thing that she's left with is trying to find out how is it that y'all can get together and put your strengths together and be better than you are, individually.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, and then that's another thing I'm sick of hearing about. I'm sick of hearing about submission. I'm sick of hearing, because, and now this is going to be a little nasty, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? What are you doing personally to put yourself in a position where someone would want to submit to you?
Right.
Huh? Do you have the qualities that are necessary for this submission?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a reasonable individual? Are you a hardworking individual? Are you an individual that's willing to put your family ahead of the things that you may want? If you're willing to do that, then submission is never a problem.
Nope.
It's never a problem. All of the women that I've met in my life, all of them, if things were in place the way that they should be, there's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem. So if submission is lacking, maybe you ought to look at what qualifies you to be a leader. Have you met the qualifications for it? And if you haven't, then it's time to do some work. If you have, then maybe it's just not your time yet. Keep looking.
Yeah, I agree, because you know what? I think women naturally want to submit. I'll be honest with you. I think women naturally want to submit, and I know I'm probably going to have some feminists jumping, screaming, yelling about this, but I think women naturally want to. And I think the alternative, again, self-preservation, is when that person is showing you signs that they can't be relied on. They're not reliable. They're not accountable. They're irresponsible. If you see a person being emotional and impulsive in their decision making, you're like, oh, I hope you ain't going to do that with me. And then that woman may actually stay. That may not necessarily result in the end termination of that relationship. That woman may actually stay, but she's going to stay with the attitude and the back talk and the doubts and the questions and the where you're going and all that kind of stuff. So, CJ, you were right on it. I think with that brother you were just showing there, Mike Rashida, thank you for, I'll look at some more of his information. I'm not into the polygamy thing per se, but I think a lot is to be said when a person is into self-development and they're working on themselves. Like, I can't even tell you when I turned my life around, and I say it because before, like even when I started being a nurse, I it was just a title thing for me. I was that person who I think I was very careless in a lot of ways, in the sense where I just thought, well, as a nurse, you just make a bunch of money. I had no responsibilities. I still had kind of like my parents paying little things for me, car insurance and cell phone bills. I mean, literally, even when I was a nurse, I still had some of those perks going on. And my parents don't even have money like that, but they were just taking care of me, just like, until you got to get on with your first job and everything. But I remember, and I'll be completely transparent. I remember getting off on the smoking weed thing, and that's the reason why I always tell people it's such a waste of time. It's such a waste of time. And I know, and I feel like such an old lady sometimes, because when I'm talking to people about it, I'm always telling these stories like, I remember being like that. I remember thinking I had my life to waste away. I remember feeling like that. But I know that environment, it can do that to you. Growing in an environment with a lot of that mess in the environment. But anyway, back to the point that I was making there is, when you start working on yourself and you start focusing on projects and things that you want to do for yourself, it attracts the people who need to be around, and it completely turns off the people who are not productive.
Yep.
So that guy Rashid probably has nothing but people who are on agenda around him because he's so focused.
Yep.
It's
And that's
he
how
won't
I
get
am too.
intimidated or inspired.
And I'm slowly starting to realize that, because I don't, like I said, I don't hang out as much.
Mhm.
Some of the people that I used to party and hang out with, they don't come around as much, and I don't speak to them. And it's no beef or nothing like that. It's just when you
No
start.
beef yet, CJ.
No, ain't no beef at all. Not for me. You ain't gonna
Okay,
catch me beefing with
not from
nobody.
you. Not
Nah,
from you. I'm
they can
talking
say
about you
people can say what.
start getting productive.
Oh, people can say what they want about me, man. I'll be on the island somewhere. I ain't worried about that. But people can say whatever they want about me. I've never been worried about that. It's just, you know, the more I'm starting to work, and the more I start to focus on the things that I really want to accomplish in my life,
Mhm.
the less people I start to see. But
Yep.
it's cool. It's fine, because like CT Fletcher said, you got to be crazy enough to be able to walk this thing alone.
Yep.
You got to be willing to walk alone.
Absolutely.
He said his own wife told him he was crazy. Didn't believe he could be the world champion. And look at him. He became the world champion.
World champion.
You got to be crazy. You got to be crazy. You got to be willing to walk this journey alone. And a lot of people not willing to do that
Mm-hmm.
to achieve what you need to achieve. Sometimes it's going to happen. Everybody ain't going to understand your plight. Everybody ain't going to understand your mission and your purpose. And at that point, it's best to just get through that thing by yourself. You'll be all right.
You preaching, CJ. You preaching. You preaching.
I'm just
You
saying, like,
preaching.
you'll be all right. It's been many nights when I'd have been studying alone, when I'd have been by myself. You got to learn to be comfortable with being by yourself. And a lot of people, that's surprisingly, men have to be up under a woman 24/7. And like I seen some dudes, and I had some friends like that had to be under their woman 24/7. I'm like, go get a job. Damn. She gonna be there when you get back.
Mm-hmm.
And if she ain't, then she wasn't the one.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But y'all, I'm getting ready to wrap this thing up. I got a little bit of studying to do. Anything y'all want to add?
Now I think we hit on everything. I just tonight I think just back to symbolism. I think we just need to, as Black folks, we need to be educated about what's going to really help us to obtain tangibles and retain them from generation to generation and stay focused. You know, we're too easily, I think, distracted. You know, and we get off on things that I think we shouldn't be really too focused on because they don't have the type of. I mean, I know people who are high earners who waste money.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are you doing that? Who are you proving this to? And you know, the crazy thing about it is they want to be dealt with like celebrities. They want to be treated and they want to be dealt with as if they're celebrities. So when they come around you, you know, if you ain't driving this and you ain't leasing this and you ain't doing this and doing that, they actually feel like they need to be telling you about how to live life. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm more than fine. Because all these high ass bills you got to pay, I don't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fact. That's same here. King Gene, anything you want to add, sir?
No, I just agree with Nurse Roxy. I think that that's something that we've been taught as a community. You know, we're full of consumers,
Yep.
always buying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one stat that was quoted, I went and looked it up because I wanted to make sure. The dollar bill circulates in our community 6 hours.
Mm.
6 hours. We're consumers. So
Mm.
how can you be constantly consuming and spending and then have something to pass on to the next generation, like Nurse Roxy mentioned?
Yep.
So even if you're a high earner, it's still a need to, as was said tonight, live below your means. And if you can do that, then you're making a sacrifice that'll pay off later because now the next generation, they're put on the foundation where they don't have to live in the slums. They don't have to see crackheads. They don't have to see winos everywhere. You're putting your family in a better position. And if I'm working and I'm putting in the hours to be the best version of myself, you better believe I want my family to benefit from that. Otherwise, why am I doing this?
Yep.
Now, a lot of it, like you said, CJ, is for personal development. But I want to see my family benefit from this too. Because I'm a man, I'm a protector, and I'm a provider. So that's just a part of who I am. So if my family's not benefiting and I'm not benefiting from it, why am I doing it? But then really, and lastly, now I'll let it go because you know me now.
Are you good?
If you are looking at your status in life and you are allowing anyone to make you feel bad about the hard work that you have done, about the sacrifices that you have made, about all those hours of studying, about all those tests that you took by yourself, about all of the patients that you had to see, about all of the practicals that you had to go through, and you letting somebody stand in front of you and degrade you because you've decided that based upon your hard work that you're going to be at a better status in life, right? If you're going to allow somebody to do that to you, then this is what I would recommend. I would recommend that you sit on the couch across from somebody with a pad who is I said it one time before, Dirty Roxy, who is qualified to help you to diagnose the issues that you have. Because you got to be crazy.
Got to be. Got to be. And one more thing I want to add. Quit. A lot of you dudes, man, stop chasing women that don't want to be chased and stop trying to save women who don't want to be saved.
Exactly.
That is a complete waste of time. And then be aware of what you're listening to. One thing I noticed, King Gene and Nurse Roxy, is that I stopped listening to stuff that doesn't add any kind of value. Like if it's not motivational, if it's not like if it's just nonsense, I stop listening to it and I stop watching it. And that matters. That plays a factor on your psyche. If you continue to listen and absorb nonsense all day, literally, like all I listen to, like all I really watch on YouTube, like I may watch like for my entertainment, I'll watch some cruise vlogs, but like literally the only people that's like on my bells is like King Gene. I'll listen to Kevin Samuels every now and then. I'll listen to like what's that? FedEx Fearless. very few dudes that I listen to because it's just like a lot of that stuff is garbage, and it really is not about nothing. So a lot of that stuff is just trash. And I'll listen to like my nursing material to keep me abreast on nursing. But other than that, I don't be out here listening to any and everything. Like my music, I stopped listening to majority rap music. Um, Not saying that it's all bad, but I
Mhm.
stopped listening to mainstream media. Like I don't even I couldn't even tell you who the newest rapper was. I have no idea. No idea.
A
I
man
try
on a mission.
right. I try to listen to R&B. Um, I watch a lot of workout videos for motivation. I watch
Mhm.
Mike She videos. Like I really started to pay attention to what I absorb in on a daily basis
Mhm.
because that will play a major part on your psyche, man. Like if you are constantly taking in negativity, then you're gonna project that.
That's right.
Mhm.
And since I started like really paying attention to what I listen to and what I watch, like life is a little bit more easier, man. I do like I'm trying to tell you, like I really do not be watching the trash. Like, I know I'm getting older because I don't even like to really hear cussing in my rap no more.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I
You
must
getting
be
there.
getting old.
You getting there, brother.
I heard one song the other day. He talking about mother F this, suck my. I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting old. I'm turning into my pops.
Yep. You're
I'm like,
saying there's not a better way for you to express that same thought. Like, why are we talking about this on a radio? Why are you putting
shoot
that
him
in a
up,
song?
bang, bang. I'm gonna kill you. And I used to, don't get me wrong, an ounce of me still love trap music, drill music, but I'm slowly starting to fiend myself off and step away from that because I'll be like, man, it'll be so negative. I don't be wanting that energy. That's energy, man. Music ain't nothing but energy,
Mhm.
vibrations. Like, and I really had to step back from a lot of that stuff because they will mess with my mood. I'm like, no, I don't need to be listening to this. I need to turn on some Kirk Franklin or something. This is scary.
Mhm.
I don't want to hear no get shot, everybody die. Blah, blah. And I'm like, oh Lord. What do everybody got to die?
Exactly.
But yeah, man, I watch what I listen to, man. So like I
As you
don't know. Do
should.
y'all got any before y'all go, y'all got any like book recommendations or any videos, any people y'all listen to for the people that may be watching?
Hmm. I was saying if I have a book right here, I'm in my office, so I have books all around me. Oh man, some of my best books are
Book
out
I'm
in my
reading right now.
shelf
Richest
out
man
there.
in Babylon. Okay, now.
This is the book I'm working on right here. So
Let me see that.
The Richest Man in Babylon.
Okay.
That's the book I'm
Okay.
working on right now. I just ordered my NCLEX book so I can get these body systems down. Again, I'm really gonna try to start reading more. I want to try to read a book a month. So you know, just to do it.
I'll make a recommendation for a book. There's a gentleman from Trinidad named C.L.R. James. And the book is Every Cook Can Govern. I believe that's the name of the book. Yes, Every Cook Can Govern. But it really is like, so CLR James is coming out of Trinidad with love for the game of cricket. And he actually winds up even going over to UK. He's in England for a little bit throughout his life, his lifetime, and he even comes to New York. Yes, he actually comes to New York at one point in time. He winds up being deported out of the United States because of his radical ideas.
What's the
But
name of
for
the book?
him, every govern can cook. If you Google it, you probably can hold me to. I think it's every cook can govern. That's what it is. Every cook can govern, and essentially what he's talking about is like, if a person is coming from a low, income status, is educated, they're given the opportunities to advance. If they themselves want to be a better person, they can be a better person, and they can go into government. They can lead a country, because he is definitely coming out of that school of thought of like Marcus Garvey and like self, development, and uh, Black people defining who they want to be. So he's pretty much saying like it doesn't matter where your background is, you can, there's things about the world that you see very different than a person who, let's say, is of the of the having class, you know. So I know I hope nobody comes and say that's not how I interpreted the book. Yeah, well, you know, that's my interpretation. So
Right. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have to check
You
them
free
out.
to that, yeah.
yes.
What about you, King Gene? Any books or anything you want to recommend?
Man,
Any listening material? Anything?
You know, I done already recommended, man. That because see, I'm into that now. I'm trying to wade my way through it. That Monahan report.
Okay.
The
The
Monahan report.
Okay.
It's called the Negro Family: The Case for National Action. That's what I'm.
Can you get that on Amazon?
You can get that free anywhere you want to get it. Now I can send you a link to it. Yeah, but it's actually in Google Documents.
Okay.
They preserved it. It's dated March 1965. So you right in the thick of it, man.
All right.
Mhm.
Bet. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the panel for coming on, and like I said, I'm trying to talk with them and see a set day that we can do this on a consistent basis, and just get some things in motion. So, but like I said, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we bid you adieu. Peace.
Peace. Thank you.